All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. One of the things that I like about doing this show, and I think part of it's because I've done the show for so long, is I often get messages from people asking if they can send me music, and it really is a great way to be introduced to new stuff and stuff that's new to me because you know I've found some really interesting things that way from people just reaching out, sort of randomly and saying, "Hey, I have this record. Do you want to hear it?" And that's sort of the case with the guest on this episode. You sent me your CD in the mail, which thanks again for doing that. And I've been listening to it quite a
My
bit lately. I really enjoy it, and it's always exciting to not only get new music in the mail, but to find out it's actually good too. That it's always an added bonus.
pleasure.
So I very much like the record. I want to talk to you about it, but I think the best way to start this off is if you want to introduce yourself and give a bit of background about what you do as an artist.
All right, so I'm Derek Helps. I'm from Morden, Manitoba, and well, I've been playing music in bands since my high school days.
Okay.
But this is my first solo album that I've put out. Um, it's essentially 10 tracks that just try to, I guess, even for myself, help just kind of carve out what do I sound like trying to do. And yeah.
So is this would you say the sound on this record is different from what you've tried before in other bands? Like this is sort of your attempt at doing your own thing?
Yeah, it's kind of a mixture of everything that I've kind of done in the past, like from being in kind of more, you know, 90s influenced uh, type bands. Uh, I also play in a band called Lakes and Pines, where it's
Right.
more sounds folk. I mean, this is kind of a combination thing, kind of 90s influenced at times, but also throwing in a lot of atmospherics and just trying to sound at least unique in my own way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a very cool sound you have on it. And I think that like I initially assumed it was going to be a folk record just because a lot of the stuff that I hear that is, a solo person's record is that kind of singer songwriter acoustic sort of vibe. But I was pleasantly surprised. Not that there's anything wrong with that part of it, but I was pleasantly surprised by the kind of the noisier stuff that was happening. And like you said, the atmospheric sounds, and there was some heavier parts, and it was definitely like a quite a variety of sounds you were drawing from on this record. And so it's neat to hear, and it's an interesting way I think to start as a solo artist, especially after having been in all these bands for so long. What sort of provoked the idea of doing this now? Like, why did you decide to put this together now?
Well, it's actually something that I've been working on since, well, actively demoing and recording. I would say the process started in about 2015.
Okay.
Um, prior to that, prior to that, I had just been spending a lot of time playing music. Just on my own in my basement, making noise, and I just kind of realized that my best moments playing was most often just heard by myself, and I just was giving up these offerings to the universe, and I wanted to try and nail some of them down for myself and make something out of the time that I was spending. And
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So
We're
it
Oh, sorry. Go
was
ahead.
a work in progress. It was a work in progress from when I actually first started recording, just demoing things because I'm not really a drummer or a bass player for the most part. I kind of became that, at least for the songs on the album, because yeah, it just took a while trying to figure out how to actually play the sounds that I was hearing in my head.
Were some of these songs like are some of them quite old? Are these songs you've been working on for a long time and just sort of had and didn't have an outlet to release them?
Yeah, like there's kind of a three part as far as the song where the songs sit chronologically. There's some that came from. See, I moved to Amsterdam in 2014.
Okay.
Um, and prior to that, I had a couple songs. And then when I moved there, I kind of tried to make it my job to just improve myself musically. And over that the course of that time, I wrote some of the songs on the album. And then when I came home from the Netherlands, that's when I started the recording process, and also wrote a few more of the songs. So they're kind of spread out in the older and Baker Lake, uh, some of the first back songs time.
Sorry, you're getting a bit cutting off here a bit, but I can still hear you, so we're still good. What is it? What is it like playing music in Morden? I mean, the teeming metropolis of Morden, Manitoba. What is the music scene like there? Because I know that I have interviewed other people from that general area, but I mean, compared to Winnipeg, everything gets compared to Winnipeg. I think for a lot of us in the province, because that's where all the venues are. Not all, but a lot of the venues are. That's where the majority of the bands are. What is it like out there? What's the music scene like?
It's been picking up over the last couple of years. We've got the Rendezvous Brewery in town, and um Kaylee there has been really great at just kind of bringing musical community out of the woodworks. That there's always been a lot of music happening in town, but it was, yeah, I guess mostly in living rooms and bedrooms and not that public because there
Yeah,
wasn't a great outlet for it. But yeah, she started bringing in a lot of local music, and every Wednesday is a open mic night, and it's really fostered a fairly healthy little scene in the area that continues to grow between the Morden area, Winkler area, and also into Altona. And so it's, I mean, that's kind of the hub of where a lot of the music is happening. Um, and that's more in a, I guess, kind of a singer songwriter type direction. In terms of playing in a band, there's less opportunity. They are there, but like there's concerts and shows that happen, but it's not as regular as what would be happening in the city. But
yeah, for sure. Are there lots of little I mean, I guess it depends on the genre of music you're playing, but I've talked to, for example, a lot of country artists who have found all of these little spots in every town and every community in rural Manitoba, like across the whole province, where they can play. There's some kind of venue, whether it's a bar, the one bar in town, or whatever else. I mean, I know Morden's bigger than that, but um, are there a lot of smaller communities around that area that shows are happening at, or is that sort of limited to maybe bigger name acts or country acts or things like that?
no, there's other places around in the other communities. Like there's often you see bands coming through playing in like at the Opera House in Manitou. Like I don't think it was recently, but Christine Fellows, I think like Jess Reimer and uh, that kind of bluegrass type stuff. I've seen that at the Opera House several times.
Cool.
Um, yeah, and I think that there are venues, but they're smaller and maybe a little bit more private.
Is there a lot of house shows and things like that?
There used to be. I'm like I haven't been to one for a while, but I imagine that they do still happen.
Well, like, I guess the reason that I ask is because I mean I'm so focused on Winnipeg. I'm interviewing people twice a week, and I'd say 85 to 90% of them are from Winnipeg, and then a bunch of other ones are from Brandon. So I mean, it's like anything outside of the major Manitoba cities, it's kind of a mystery to me, and I'm always very interested in sort of what's happening
Right.
because it's easy to forget that there are communities outside of Winnipeg, and even forgetting Brandon. I mean, there's so much going on here that it's always interesting to find out what's happening in the smaller communities because everyone's making music. I mean, this province has like a really great history and reputation for music making everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. Another cool thing that's going on in Morden music wise I think it's every 3 weeks. They've closed down a section of street and have a permanent kind of stage fixture gathering area there. And so there's local bands that play there every third week, I believe it is. And that's another opportunity in the summer. Winter gets a little more scarce,
Of course,
but
yeah.
we'll usually at least once a year organize some sort of a music band night at our Legion. The Legion's been really good for letting us basically have free reign of the place, so
Nice.
it can be kind of weird sometimes.
You must get some interesting audiences there, I imagine.
Yeah, well, and it's there's a comfort level that maybe you wouldn't necessarily have at some of the more regularly played places in the city where you're not necessarily just gonna throw a handful of whatever you got going on at the time at the wall and hope something sticks. Just take a Hail Mary and maybe it's gonna suck, but that's okay if it does because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, totally.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of cool stuff. Like there's one of my buddies does some like electronic music and just different things that people, at least in the area here, it's kind of new and exciting, or just new and what the heck was that?
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. With this record, I mean, now that it's out, what is sort of your plan with it? Because like you were saying before, these are sort of songs that you felt you needed to release that were different from the other projects you were working on. What are you hoping to sort of achieve with this now that you've released it? Are you planning on doing more shows, whether it's locally or otherwise? What's sort of the near future goal, I guess, now that it's out in the world?
Well, I would like to play shows. I do have a band that we've been rehearsing, and we've played a couple shows locally. Like we played the Back 40 Music
Oh yeah,
Festival in town, um, and had done a few shows prior to that. Just summer is a hard time to try and get a bunch of people just to be on the same page at the same time, and families going camping and baseball lessons
of
and
course.
these things. It's hard. You can't compete with the summer, so I'm hoping for some more activity come fall.
Is this with these songs? I mean, like we kind of discussed at the beginning, a lot of them are fairly singer songwritery, but then there's the ones that have more kind of power to them and more they're more electric and have that kind of 90s alt rock sort of vibe to them. There's the ones that are more of an atmosphere. Are these songs that you can play solo, or do they require having the band with you? I mean, would you be able to perform this record or most of the songs from this record just as a solo artist, one person with a guitar or whatever?
Yeah, I have done maybe not the entire shows with the show with in its entirety acoustic, but I do play acoustic shows, and I can play all of them that way. Um, and I just find that they translate better with band, but I do play them solo as well. And actually, I did an album release party in town at our art gallery, and
Okay,
I played with my friend Mel, who's a cello player who also plays in Lakes and Pines, with her and other buddy Josh on banjo, and I played acoustic and harmonica, and
cool.
that actually, yeah, it was actually really fun, just kind of interpreting these songs, especially after just going through the mixing and mastering process. You just get hammered with these songs over and over, and you're listening to like microseconds on repeat. That it's it was actually really refreshing to just take a totally different approach with them.
Well, yeah, and if you're playing all these instruments on them too, and you've been working on them for as long as you have, you must be like completely just inundated with these same songs over and over. So I can see how that would be. Yeah, that would be a nice feeling to have a
Mm-hmm.
completely new interpretation of them.
Yeah, definitely.
What is the is Lakes and Pines still active? Like, are you guys still actively playing shows and stuff?
Yep. Yeah, we were inactive for a while, but we have been kind of slowly simmering over the last little bit. We've got yeah, it's there's an album in there somewhere. We've got the songs for it. We're just again trying to make time to get together. But actually, just prior to starting the interview here, I was over at Patrick. He's the singer songwriter for Lakes and Pines. He conveniently just lives down the street, and
Right on.
we were just having a little cello session prior to this interview. So we are still doing stuff. It's just slow coming.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the advantage that bands who are, like 18 years old have over people who've been doing it for a while, because when you're 18 and you start in a band, you don't have any responsibilities and you can focus on the
No,
band as your one thing, right? I mean, I stopped playing in bands like 15 years ago when I first started having kids, and this is what I do instead because this is a little bit easier to manage with time. So yeah, it becomes a thing, right? The older you get, even if you're still passionate about it, life gets in the way for a lot of people, and it's just much harder to keep a band together and play and rehearse and do all that as regularly as you used to.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I look back at the days when we used to have like weekly rehearsals, and I have a hard time even imagining it now. It's like,
Yeah,
wow, that happened.
yeah, for sure, for
Now, if
sure.
you can get them once a month, it's like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like Christmas. You're pumped, yeah.
Yeah. So,
With this record, now that, I mean, again, you spent all this time with these songs. You like you said, you were listening to every microsecond to record them and mix them and all that, and you've gone over them so many times in your head, I'm sure. Do you have, I mean, do they seem old to you still, or are you, now that this record's out there and people are hearing them often for the first time, do you feel like are you sort of refreshed on some of these songs now because you're having to introduce them to potentially new audiences, or are you done with it and just ready to move on to the next thing?
yeah. Yeah. In a lot of ways, I do feel kind of done with it, um, and just ready to do something else. Um, but but it also comes with how often I've played them in a certain way. So if I'm playing them more acoustically, I can only do that a few times before it kind of loses its thing for me. Whereas playing with the band, then you have that interaction with the other players, and things can go in different directions, and that can kind of keep it fresh. Yeah, we don't with the band. They're the songs. I mean, the songs are the songs that are recorded, but when you we play them live, then they kind of just become their own thing, and it yeah, it kind of keeps it exciting that way. So I do look forward to playing some more full band shows coming up.
Cool, cool. When you sort of brought these songs to this band that you have now for playing them, did that sort of expand the way they sound as well sonically? Just having all these new people, or not new, but people you knew that you were playing with suddenly kind of contributing what they had to these songs, or are they still pretty much essentially as they were recorded and written on the CD?
Well, they started out that way, but as we've been kind of developing them just in their own way, the players do kind of take them in their direction, and like with my buddy that plays keyboards, yeah, a lot of it's just kind of whatever he's feeling is the right sound at that time. That it's not, especially like yeah, with synth sounds, it can be so difficult to actually nail them down unless you're using the exact same gear. But even then, like if you're not saving presets and things to get the sound again, it's like, well, whatever, get closer.
Yeah, or you could find something completely
Uh,
different that works as well, right?
yeah, yeah, and I prefer that even just to keep things fresh and let the songs be alive in the moment that they're existing.
Yeah, yeah, right on. What's the best way if someone is hearing you for the first time on this show and they want to check out more of your stuff? what's the best way to hear your music at this point? I mean, I know it's on it's on Bandcamp. People can get the CD as well. But where would you send someone to find your music if they're looking for it?
Um, yeah, I guess Bandcamp would be the place to go. I mean, I don't do much for social media. The only thing that I really keep up with is Instagram. I guess so that any kind of band announcements would be through Instagram.
Okay. And then if someone wants to get a physical
Although
copy, like,
there
oh, sorry, go
is
ahead.
I was just going to mention that I had a previous account that got hacked, and it's still out there. That got to watch out for the imposter account.
Yeah.
But mine is, that one is helps DM is the imposter account.
And what's the real one so people know to look for the right one?
Derek M helps.
Okay. Okay. So they're similar. I can see how that could
And
be confusing.
And actually, I think in the little icon picture, I might be wearing the same shirt that I'm wearing now.
Awesome. If someone wants to get a physical copy, like, should they just message you? Is that sort of how you're doing it? I imagine you're selling them at shows and things like that,
Yeah,
but people in Winnipeg maybe aren't going to see you, right away. So sending you a message is
right.
that the best way to do it?
Yeah, that can get it done, and I'm often in the city. My partner lives in the city, so I'm
Okay.
often finding myself there. So can also arrange something that way. But good old snail mail works.
Yeah, it works too. It came pretty quick when you sent it to me, so that yeah, Canada Post
Yeah,
is
I
good
was
for
actually
something.
surprised.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too. Do you have any shows coming up in the relatively near future? I mean, this is a podcast. Someone could hear it the day it comes out, or they could hear it a year from now, at which point, any new shows will be old. But do you have anything that's coming up next few weeks or months?
well, this summer, I guess my next thing that I'm kind of working on, and I just started thinking about it the other day, but it'll be at the Corn and Apple Festival in town here at the Legion Lounge stage. Uh, yeah, working on a kind of an experimental cello, uh, just kind of improv type thing with my friend Mel playing cello and play like some synth and effects, mess
Cool.
with the cello through stuff. We'll see how that goes. Like I was saying, that the Legion's a good place to get weird, so
Right
take
on.
advantage of that.
Right on.
Yeah, that'll be. Well, we just actually started talking about it, so maybe it won't even happen. But if it does, that'll probably be the next thing that I do, and that's end of August, last
Cool.
weekend in August.
Well, that's a huge event for the community too, right? I mean, you get tons of people coming in
Oh yeah,
from all over the place for that thing.
oh yeah. It's can be shocking how many people are in town, but it's fun and it's free. So
Can't beat that. Yeah, for sure.